Hello there, and welcome to Screen and Scripture, a podcast where we look at great films, what they have to say about the world, and what the Bible has to say about that. I'm Dave Allen, and today I'll be talking about 2007's There Will Be Blood. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Paul Dano, and Ciarán Hinds, this imposing film was nominated for several awards and won Oscars for Best Cinematography and Best Actor for Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. It is rated R for violence. There Will Be Blood is the fictional story about Daniel Plainview, an oil contractor in the 1800s played by Day-Lewis. The film chronicles his life from his beginnings as a solo prospector to a powerful oil magnate to a millionaire recluse. Along his journey, he adopts a son played by Dylan Frazier and tussles with an up-and-coming frontier preacher portrayed by Paul Dano. I've often described this film as a train wreck that I can't look away from. In that regard, it feels like a spiritual cousin to Werner Herzog's film Aguirre, The Wrath of God from 1972, which is another film that I highly recommend. This movie has many powerful moments and one of my favorite endings and final lines of all time. This movie is about ambition and leveraging willpower to impose your ambition on those around you. Daniel Day-Lewis's turn as the gruff, no-nonsense Plainview is single-mindedly ruthless. As he says in the film, "I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed." Just realized my impression sounds a little more like Sean Connery there. It's not so much about reaching a specific goal for Plainview. It's about beating out everyone around you. He entertains intimate relationships only a couple times, once with his son and later with his estranged brother. In both cases, though, the movie is true to its title, whether metaphorically or literally. The most explosive dynamic, however, is between Plainview and his main rival, the preacher Eli Sunday. Evoking a snake-handling cult leader, Eli also looks to impose his will, although his talents lie in charismatic preaching and zealous community building. It's when these two men's purposes counter each other that the fireworks really fly. Over the course of the movie, we see that Daniel is content to work on his own or with a team, but as long as he's getting ahead. He is relatively unfazed by whatever life throws at him, but his emotions are quick to bubble to the surface when he feels he's either being manipulated for someone else's gain or being looked down upon. The memorable ending portrays Daniel as lonely and decrepit, but content to know that he has beaten his last possible rival. Aside from the narrative, the movie's score and cinematography also communicate the imposing will, but of the director. You can't get away from the screeching drone of the music or the vast, intimidating imagery that Thomas Anderson puts on screen. Interesting characters appear, but are discarded when they no longer suit the story of Daniel Plainview. Paul Sunday, Fletcher, and even Daniel's son disappear from the story without much fanfare or resolution. In this way, the filmmaker mirrors the people as tools mentality of his main character. The film itself is ambitious and flexes its willpower on the viewer. Ambition is unique within creation to humans, and I believe it's part of what is meant when Scripture says we are, quote, made in the image of God. God is ambitious. He has plans and purposes and works to accomplish great things. Psalm 66:5 says, "Come and see what God has done. He is awesome in his deeds toward the children of man." And like God, humans aspire for great things. However, healthy ambition twisted by greed and a lack of love towards God or others leads to a sinful lust for success at all costs. Such is the case with the characters of this film. James asks the question in chapter 4 of his letter, "What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel." Plainview and Sunday indulged the passion for power within themselves and left a trail of broken relationships and destroyed lives in their wake. So, where should we aim our ambitions? There are a couple helpful passages, such as 1 Corinthians 10:31, which says, "So, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God." Or Colossians 3:23 and 24 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord, and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. So, with regard to your day-to-day work, the Bible encourages hard work and success, but always within the boundaries of honoring God. If the way you pursue success or the nature of the work itself dishonors God, then it's not ultimately successful. God's most ambitious goal was to save sinners through the death of his Son, Jesus Christ. Thus, there is no greater ambition for us than to seek out that salvation for ourselves and share the good news with others. Jesus says as much in Luke 9:23 and 25. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? While this impressive film certainly portrays a biblical depravity of mankind, it never really presents any pathway to redemption. If you're interested in that, you'll have to look to Scripture. If you enjoyed There Will Be Blood and want more compelling portrayals of people being horrible to each other, I recommend the aforementioned Herzog film, Aguirre, The Wrath of God, or The Sweet Smell of Success from 1957, or The Bad and the Beautiful from 1952. Thanks for listening to Screen and Scripture, and remember, whether you eat, drink, or build a vast oil empire, do all to the glory of God. This episode was produced by Dave Allen. All scripture quotations were taken from the English Standard Version.